subject of fraud is brought up, most people immediately think of high-level or maybe organized crime syndicate-level activity. The day-to-day incidence of check fraud in companies of all sizes, however, should alert us to the fact that these practices may be closer to home than we think. Whether as a business owner, you choose to trust that that hefty check submitted by a valued client will cover the costs of your services or products, or to trust signed blank checks to a trusted employee or family member, you must be well aware of the inherent risks in these day-to-day transactions. Fraudsters can make counterfeit checks, forge signatures of account holders, and change the names of recipients or the amount to be tendered on genuine checks before they are submitted. Tonight we help give you an idea of how to better identify and therefore protect yourself from this type of fraud, analyzing the newest methods fraudsters have devised. Here to paint a picture of the current state of affairs with regards to check fraud is Horata Seboko of First National Bank of Botswana.
Of late, we have picked or realized that criminals have infiltrated various organizations, in that they will befriend some staff who deal directly with checkbooks. They'll infiltrate staff members who have access to information that can assist them in commission of such a fraud. And as regards to the check fraud, the infiltration comes in that the internal staff member would be asked to steal a checkbook with information that can assist them, specifically the signature specimen therein. And once criminals are armed with this information, they'll engage the graphic designer, who would in turn ensure that information is pasted or is placed into the check that would have been stolen from any organization that would be targeted at the material time. And what happens thereafter is the check gets presented for a deposit or for a payment at any of the service provider of their choice for any goods or services that they will be providing. And it normally gets deposited at another bank, because now it takes 2 days for it to clear. If there's any technicality that may arise and the check goes through, yes, there's going to be a loss incurred by the said customer. And when we pay a closer look and attention to details therein, you'd find that the check would be a fraud. I'm saying this because the business community deals with large volumes of checks, and more often than not, attention is never paid to details. Details in that on the presentation of the check, you'd expect that the community or the business community be familiar with the presentation of any check from any bank, because the kind of paper or the material that is used, the ink that is therein, should be able to tell you that this is how a check is presented from various institutions. But in the absence of somebody who can pay attention to details, we see checks being intercepted by the criminals and being tampered with, specifically at the branch code, the account number, the account name, payee details. And where the recipient of such a check does not pay attention, they are going to let that check to go through. Unlike in the bank, where we know what to do as and when we receive checks. And I'm urging the business community to be alive to the fact that fraud can happen in any of the institutions. It knows no boundaries, so they shouldn't have this belief or thinking that in their institutions fraud can never happen. So there is always a risk associated with receiving a check from any potential customer, because it's not every customer who is a genuine customer. So at all times, it's important that they understand the modus or the motive or the operations of those that they deal with in their day-to-day conduct of the business. Secondly, we again are urging the community or the business or any organization that deals directly with the check that at all times, checks be kept in a secure and locked environment. I'm saying this because the other trend that is where staff members from any organization would have been asked to steal any of the blank checks. Normally what happens is they would resort to stealing checks that are yet to be issued. And it's important that for any organization that deals with checks for any payment or anything, they must conduct a regular snap check or regular reconciliation, just so that we ensure that the serial numbers that appear on your bank statement or the serial numbers that are listed as having been issued to various service providers are the ones that have gone through the account. In the absence of such reconciliation that is done timelessly, it's possible that fraud cannot happen and can only be discovered long after it had happened, when staff would have resigned because they know what is coming their way, where there will be little or no effort that can be made to recover any of the funds that may have resulted as a result of such an activity. The other thing that is quite important is we shouldn't keep checkbooks in the KB holes. If your vehicle gets broken into, the first target would be that checkbook, especially that more often than not, the signatory leave blank check leaves signed in advance, just so that in their absence, the business should be able to go on. So I'm urging those that are using the checkbooks as a form of payment that they should never at any given time leave a blank checkbook with their signature therein. It is very, very, very important, because a check as it is nothing but money. So if you are going to give the criminals a leeway to steal from you, they will surely do, because at all times it can happen.
To get more from life, we need all the help we can get. Like getting a 105% home loan to cover costs like legal fees and deposits. And 55 days interest-free credit when swiping your credit card. And paying 0% deposit to drive the car you want. And helping save for those big things for your family. And earning real rewards for just doing your everyday banking. Isn't it time you got more from life with gold? Switch to FNB today. FNB, how can we help you?
Welcome back to First Issues, as we continue to get an understanding of the current trends with regards to check fraud and the ways in which you can guard yourself against this particular practice. You've given some examples as to current trends, but what other trends or current practices in terms of check fraud can the small entrepreneur or the business person look out for?
It is important that as an individual or as a business that deals with any form of payment, you should be able to understand the feel of document or an instrument that is used as a form of payment. Whether it is about cash, it's important that any business or anybody who deals with that should be able to understand the security features therein on the checkbook, on the cash or the local currency or any other currency that would be used as a form of payment. I'm saying this because once you receive something that is in contrast with a genuine form of instrument, you should be able to tell from just by looking, or have systems in place or controls in place to ensure that such instruments go through as process, just so that by the time you conclude the transaction, you are certain that the form of payment that is being presented to you is genuine, is legitimate, such that it cannot come back to create a financial loss in your day-to-day running of business.
Who tend to be the victims of this type of check fraud? Is it a particular sector of business? Is it individuals? Have you noticed anything there?
Of late, what we have picked is the corporate world is being targeted by criminals. Yes, individuals are being targeted because of house break-ins, motor vehicle break-ins, but from the larger part of the economy, the corporate organizations are a target. Why? Because they deal with large sums of money. And for any transaction, say for instance a transaction of 250, it is a gain to the criminal, but a loss to the organization. Ultimately, all this, they taint the image of both the organization itself, the financial institution, the integrity of such an institution. They all undermine such. So we urging everybody who deals with checkbooks to be vigilant at all times and ensure that those are kept under lock and key. Secondly, over and above that, it is important that at every organization we ensure that the movement of checkbooks is monitored. If a checkbook is to move any floor, let us have systems in place to ensure that in the process, while checkbook is moved around for payments to be made, we ensure that there is no check leaving at the end of the day. In the morning when the business opens, let us do a reconciliation. In the afternoons and close of business, let's do a recon to ensure that all is in order. Because if we leave it to employees or if we leave it to anybody who deals with that, it's not always to piggy any irregularity well on time. And it becomes very unfortunate for an organization to pick an irregularity way after effect.
Stay with us. When we return after the break, we share with you some platforms you can use to help minimize incidents of check fraud. Welcome back to First Issues. Along with familiarizing yourself with the security features of banknotes and checks, as well as regularly reconciling your financial records, as we have been advised before the break, there are some alternative platforms that help minimize fraud. To tell us about these platforms is the head of transactional banking, Kabo Musini.
Having looking at our bouquet of products that we offer our clients, I think the two basic products that I can offer clients in terms of mitigating check fraud would be your debit and credit cards, which we offer our clients for purposes of transacting. We do know that some of our clients have travel obligations, in which case instead of using or utilizing checks for such payments, we do offer them with these credit cards for use, either locally or abroad. When you're looking at, when it comes to now initiating payments, to clients' beneficiaries, we do have our online banking enterprise, which is a very robust system, offering maximized security for our clients, which is one of the clients. Now, for the larger corporations that would look at obviously integrating or automation, we do have our host-to-host platforms that we offer for both payments and collections.
Is it possible for a business to operate its day-to-day and maybe even major transactions without ever using a checkbook?
Well, I mean, the need for a check within our market will always be there. And this is predominantly due to the type of businesses that we sometimes deal with. I mean, if you look at the majority of the smaller, the SMMEs, as much as we encourage them to open and operate accounts, which is, I mean, the financial intelligent thing to do, but it's sometimes that we do have customers that don't have bank accounts. And in such cases, we do have alternate channels that you can use. For instance, as I alluded earlier, our online banking enterprise. We do have what we call an e-wallet box, and I think e-wallet has been a catch in the market. We've used it consumer to consumer, but we're now offering corporates the ability to then initiate these for very low value transactions. But to get to your question and answer your question is, we will not 100% eliminate checks, but for instances where we can minimize the use of checks, we do advocate that our clients use these alternate channels to effect those modes of payment. Check fraudulent or check fraud is rampant. We do have a lot of cases around check fraud. Where we can verify client details, where clients have accounts, I'd advise our corporates to move into actually, utilizing the platforms that are available to them. We do understand it's sometimes issues of training, but as a service provider and as a financial service provider, we do offer refresher courses to all these client bases to ensure that they're kept abreast in terms of the latest capabilities of our products.
That concludes this portion of our program, but do stay with us because when we return, we take a look at one of the newest investment scams.
To get more from life, we need all the help we can get. Like getting a 105% home loan to cover costs like legal fees and deposits. And 55 days interest-free credit when swiping your credit card. And paying 0% deposit to drive the car you want. And helping save for those big things for your family. And earning real rewards for just doing your everyday banking. Isn't it time you got more from life with gold? Switch to F&B today. F&B, how can we help you?
Welcome back to the show. The 2007 financial crisis led to renewed interest in some circles for the development of a currency that was free from the control of central banks and also safer in the face of growing technological security threats. This time led to the birth of a cryptocurrency we now call Bitcoin. Its developers dreamed of a democratization of financial transactions and of the protection of privacy. And by 2013, interest in this currency saw its value skyrocket. The freedoms and anonymity offered by this new technology has proven problematic for regulators, and a move to try and oversee and control the advancement of Bitcoin in the United States in particular has left the future of this innovation almost hanging in the balance. It is this confusion in the growth trajectory of the innovation that has seen opportunistic fraudsters try and take advantage of consumers and scam potential early adopters. Our own corner of the world is evidently not beyond the reach of criminals who look to exploit people's lack of familiarity with this new currency. So we therefore turn to consumer activist Richard Harriman of Consumer Watchdog Botswana to find out which opportunities in this space are legitimate and which are not.
Bitcoin is a currency. It's a very strange currency. It's not like a currency that you and I are familiar with. There's no coins, there's no notes, there's nothing you put in your wallet, put in your back pocket or your purse. It's a currency that is entirely virtual. It's out there in the internet somewhere. It's what they call a cryptocurrency. Now, it is a real currency. You can buy things with it, you can sell things with it, you can trade with it, you can transact. It's a real currency, but it's often portrayed as an investment. And it's no more an investment than the pula, or the dollar, or the euro, or the yen is an investment. It's just a currency. And you see a lot of people on Facebook saying you should invest in Bitcoin. Now, it is true that the value of the Bitcoin is going steadily up. It's also on occasions gone dramatically down. It's like any currency. We've seen the South African rand over the last 25 years. It's gone up, it's gone down, it's gone down, it's gone down. More often than not, it's gone down, not up. Bitcoin is going up at the moment. But who knows what will happen tomorrow or next week. But it is nevertheless a genuine currency that all of us should learn some more about, because I think Bitcoin or something like it is probably the future of money. Now, the other issue about Bitcoin is it's being exploited by a whole lot of crooks who claim they have something like Bitcoin, or their scam, their investment is connected with Bitcoin. We've seen it with things like MMM Global, run by this Russian convicted fraudster, that at one point claimed that his scam was related to Bitcoin. You've seen it with, what's his name, Ref Wayne, the guy that came here with the gold Bentley and the gold Aston Martin that he claimed to own, which he didn't really, a few months ago. He was selling a thing called Pipcoin, which was pretending to be just like Bitcoin. In fact, it was nothing of the sort. It's a Ponzi scheme. But it's exploiting our confusion about a valid, scary, interesting, fascinating thing like Bitcoin. Billcoin is another one. They're all playing on this coin thing. And it's exploiting our confusion about this very strange new creature called Bitcoin. And there are other cryptocurrencies is one called Ethereum, which is slightly different. These are new things that very few of us know much about and that are confusing. And whenever there's confusion, that's where scammers come in and crooks come in and exploit our confusion by selling us investments. Be very, very careful about new things. It's critical that as a nation we start learning about Bitcoin and the other new cryptocurrencies, because as I said, I do think it's possibly the future of money. In 50 years' time, our grandchildren won't be using notes and coins. They'll have some implant that sort of sends funds magically through technology. And that's where we're going. And I think it's critically important. We'll do our best to educate people about Bitcoin and the other cryptocurrencies, but as consumers, we need to start educating ourselves because it's being exploited at the moment and people are losing money as a result of it.
What are some of the core things that consumers should understand about Bitcoin that could better inform their investment decisions within the cryptocurrency space? What is Bitcoin in the simplest of terms?
I can't say I'm an expert. I know a little bit. Bitcoin, as I say, is a currency. Now, unlike the dollar, which is governed by the Federal Reserve in the States, unlike the Rand, which the South African Reserve Bank, unlike the Pula, the Bank of Botswana, manage and control, Bitcoin is completely uncontrolled. Now, that's interesting. It presents us with some challenges. If I pay you money from my bank account to your account using Pula or dollars, that can be traced. The bank can find out if it all goes wrong. If you're a scammer, they can maybe even reverse it. With Bitcoin, it's held encrypted. There's no trace as who's paying who, which means that it's being used by an awful lot of criminals. A whole lot of scammers want to be paid in Bitcoin. You might remember, viewers will remember, just a few weeks ago, there was a ransomware attack called WannaCry that hit computers around the world, hospitals, factories, all over the place. Their computers were being encrypted. All of the data was suddenly encrypted. They couldn't get on. And you had to pay money, ransomware they call it. You had to pay money to decrypt all your documents. And guess how you had to pay? With Bitcoin. And the reason they wanted Bitcoin and not dollars or Pula or yen or rubles was Bitcoin is untraceable. You can see that money was transferred, but there's no way you can see that it was me that received it, or that it was you that received it, or it was the viewer that received it. So it's hidden, and that is, in some respects, it's quite good. A freedom movement in an oppressive country can use Bitcoin to fund their freedom movement. That's great. But crooks can use it, scammers can use it, really nasty people, terrorists are using it, pedophiles are using it to share their revolting images. It's fantastic. It's really scary as well.
Bitcoinzar.co.za, an information website for Bitcoin investors, warns against any scheme in the name of Bitcoin, mining, or cryptocurrencies that assures any form of fixed return. They write that they believe that any company assuring fixed returns is a Ponzi, multi-level marketing, network marketing scheme, or a scam. No one would like to be left behind of what could possibly be the next tech boom, but do ensure that your excitement does not overshadow your voice of reason when venturing into uncharted waters. We thank you so much for your viewership and look forward to your feedback. With that, it is good night from me, Nameto Samakula, and the First Issues team.